All right. Well, I think we've got Congressman Madison Cawthorn. He's joining us now to talk about all of this and more. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. You're obviously the youngest member of Congress from North Carolina. Welcome to the swamp. Did you expect this to be how your first week as a duly elected member of Congress was going to go?
Well, I'll tell you, my older brother is now watching C-SPAN now that I'm in Congress, and for the very first time, he called me and said, "Why have we not been watching this our whole lives? This was the most riveting TV I've ever seen." It was an incredibly sad scene that unfolded within our Capitol today, and I know that the two of you, as well as myself, we all condemn that kind of violence and that kind of mob rule.
Congressman Cawthorn, nice to be able to call you that. Once again, and great to talk to you. You were there when all of this transpired. Take us inside and what was happening.
Well, you could sense the Capitol Police getting more and more uneasy. You could hear the indistinct radio chatter coming across. And you could sense the other members getting very frazzled and very flustered and nervous. But then when the doors started banging and we realized that the protesters were just right outside, how many of them there were, the fact they had moved through multiple levels of security, the fact they had moved through tear gas, made it through many police lines. The Capitol Police did a great job of then escorting all of us out. I got to give a big shout out to Ted Budd and my other colleagues who really assisted me in getting out of the Capitol. So it was a very tense time. It was a very emotional time, you could tell, but also, it was incredible the sense of unity we had. There were Democratic and Republican Congressmen people who were all bannered together, moving forward to try and find a place of refuge and safety.
Yeah, and I think to your point, I think many people remember your speech at the RNC talking about the importance of service and liberty and dedication. And so talk to us a little bit about seeing, such a robust movement of people from suddenly having the entirety of that movement marred in many ways by hooligans who decided to engage in thuggery in the nation's capital.
Of course, this was an absolute minority of people who were acting in this violent and pathetic way. Most of the people who came up here were God-fearing, country-loving patriots who were here to support the way of life that they want to support. And when there are MAGA people in this city, normally it is the safest, easiest thing to move through. Whereas a Black Lives Matter movement is very dangerous, and it's something that's very scary to roll through.
Congressman Cawthorn, in terms of moving forward, because I'd like to talk a little bit more about that, because this isn't just one day that brought us to this point as to what happened yesterday. This is something obviously that has been building from a whole lot of people, at least 75 million people that feel that they've been discounted for the last 4 years. And gradually that's just become greater and greater and greater. And now we have the President of the United States censored and taken off Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and not going to be put back on until after the inauguration. So how do we move forward when that type of behavior is still happening from one side?
You know what? You have to realize, and you have to take into account the fact that we're going to have to move forward from this. Right now, we've exhausted every legal measure that you have to be able to try and stop the Joe Biden presidency. But unfortunately, the legal measures weren't enough to stop him. Our court systems, I believe, truly failed us. And he will be the president. We will respect the office of the president, of course. But also moving forward, I think my fellow members in Congress and people in the Senate and fellow patriots across this country, we need to make sure this never happens again. We need to protect election integrity. We need to make sure that the people feel like they can trust the electoral process. And we need to have more safeguards in place.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have to leave it there. But Congressman Madison Cawthorn, thanks so much for joining us. Godspeed, my friend.
Yeah, glad you're safe.
It's an honor. Thank you.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.